welcome to NAPOD, where we provide NA speaker meetings and workshops in a podcast. We are an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us to be self-supporting by visiting napod.xyz, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 in the virtual basket. If you're also in AA or have friends that are, please tell them about our other podcast, Sobercast. Sobercast features AA speakers and workshops in the same format as NAPOD. We upload a new speaker every day, and it's easy to subscribe by searching for Sobercast, that's 2 words, on any podcast player app, or go to Sobercast.com. Enjoy the podcast, and thanks for listening.
Tonight is Sunday, the 26th of March, 2006, and the Sunday night speakers meeting of Narcotics Anonymous welcomes our first speaker, Janis.
Hi.
I'm going to stand up. I don't say it very well, if that's okay.
Okay, sure.
I'm an addict named Janis.
Hi, Janis.
I need to stand up because my body likes to move. And I am really grateful. Thank you, Jim, for asking me here. No baby.
No baby, no baby. This is tonight.
He comes a cutest little baby. Anyway, I'm really, really grateful to be here. I spent today at a memorial service for another one of us that died. Lost 22 people in the last 2.5 years in my life. And I'm really grateful. I can't tell you how grateful I am to the program of Narcotics Anonymous, because if I didn't have Narcotics Anonymous, I'd have used a long time ago. I'm absolutely certain of that. I have so many wonderful, loving people in my life. And it's only through this program, because you guys get it. You guys don't tell me, don't worry, it'll be all right. You just hold me and let me cry. You don't tell me things that, I know it's going to be all right. It's always all right. But right now I have to feel my pain. And it's really important that we allow each other to feel pain and to be with each other in the pain. I'm not even sure where I want to go with this. I'm kind of lost my mother 2 years ago, and a few days ago was a 2-year anniversary for my mother's death. And I'm really grateful that I had all the clean time that I've got to have spent it with my mother, because I did such nasty things. My entire life I was a very nasty, evil person. And I'm probably the only one that believes that more than anybody else does. I have a daughter that tells me, Mom, you were never that bad. I take it back, my son believes it. My son definitely didn't like me very much. When I got clean, he was 16 when I got clean. That background music, this is great, little background music here. I got clean on my son's 16th birthday. And I had to emancipate him because of his insanity. He didn't like me very much, and he's done all he can to do everything that I wouldn't want him to do. And it was very interesting to me, because I've gotten to see my own growth a lot through my kids. On my first clean date, my first year, my son, I had no idea where he was. And on my second year, I was taking a cake, and he stood with his arms folded, or sat there, and he was kind of there and then gone. And on my third NA birthday, we had gotten together little by little. On my third NA birthday, my son was there, and my son was crying. And my son sat there and cried with me as I took a cake. And that's where our growth together really started. He, on his, or my, actually 10th NA birthday, he wrote me a letter, a little card he sent me that said, Mom, my growing up was anything but good. He says, but if it took addiction to get the mom I have today, I would do it all over again. And that's a gift. It's such a gift of this program. I'm beyond grateful for what I've got here. I got here when I was almost 40 years old, just a few months shy of my 40th birthday. I've been clean for 18 years. I'll be 58 in a couple of months. And my whole life is just totally shifted. The person that I was, I want to say is no longer, but I know somewhere that person is inside of me. And I know somewhere, if I allowed her to come out, she could be there. And the disease of addiction is so powerful that I've turned my will and my life over to the disease of addiction on a regular basis. When I got here, and I truly got, I don't know how, at the beginning, I never really knew that I was powerless or believed that I was powerless. I surely didn't believe my life was unmanageable. I lost everything that I owned. I was homeless for 2 years. I came down to LA and had nothing. Running around, shooting dope, getting arrested, running around again, getting an apartment, being kicked out, and I never saw the unmanageability. So when I got here, this is funny, I'm sorry, but I'm watching them and I'm just... when I really got the unmanageability, I was able to, they tell me to come to believe that there was this power greater than myself. And I always had a God. I always had a God, get me out of this one, God. I always had God, please make the dope be good, God. I mean, that God was always there for me. And it was a God's going to get you God. You know, the one that does payback. If you do evil, God makes evil for you. So they told me when I got here that I just got to come to believe in a power greater than myself. That was my choice of a higher power. And see, I always turned my will and my life over to a power greater than myself. It was a disease of addiction. I have spent my entire life, I probably was born an addict. If I wasn't, I'm sure that I became an addict the day my mother gave me a chocolate chip cookie, you know, and said, here, stop crying. And I found something outside myself that could fix me. And I have spent my whole life attempting to get something outside of me to fix me when I'm not okay with me. And I don't know that's going to ever go away for me. It's less. I think more often when I go shopping now. I don't spend as much. I've learned how to do things in order to just work on spirituality. Because I have turned my life, my will and my life over to that negative higher power for so long. So all I had to do in coming to believe and to make this decision to turn my will and my life over to, it would be to choose a positive higher power. And I got to choose a God of my own understanding, one that would work for me, that everybody told me, you don't have to have a God's going to get you for that one God. You can choose a God that's going to love you unconditionally. And I didn't know that unconditionally ever existed. So I got to make this decision. And in making this decision, one of the things that I really got, and I didn't get it then. This has taken years of work to see. But what happened for me is as I make this decision to turn my will and my life over, when I really get that I'm powerless, and I really understand how powerless I am for the disease of addiction, that I need to call on this God. I am powerless, not helpless. And so when I know I'm powerless and I can do the footwork, the interesting thing about being powerless is I've become powerful. I've become a powerful woman today. I mean, there's just so many things that I could do. For me, when I turned 18 in October, one of the things that I felt so phenomenal about is that when I was 18, the first time, chronologically 18, and my life was already pretty much starting on the down slope there, and I had hopes and I had dreams and I had things that I wanted to be and things that I wanted to do with my life. And today, at 18, 40 years later, I'm doing those things. Today I am who I want to be, and I also know that if I'm not, that there's going to be somebody else that I want, not somebody else, I like being me, I mean something else that I want to do with my life, and more personal growth and stuff that I want. And see, today I believe all of that's possible. I didn't know any of that stuff was possible before. I'm self-employed. I became totally 100% self-employed 1 year ago, and I make it from month to month. I've never had a doubt. I swear this, I have never had a doubt. The day I decided to leave my full-time job and stay with my business, which I had been developing over the 5 years before that, I never had a doubt. God just kind of guided me, and it became time to make a choice. Do I want to stay with the job that I was at? It was like a turning point there. Do I want to reapply, so to speak, or do I want to leave? And I knew that when I left, I'd be taken care of as long as I kept doing the footwork. And it's just, I have such a knowing. This program has taught me to have such a knowing and such a trust in this God of my understanding, and to have such a knowing and a trust in my ability. I just never knew what I was capable of. I've grown up filled with so much pain. I've grown up thinking that I was dumb, that I was stupid, that I wasn't capable of doing anything. And I have learned that I'm not dumb and I'm not stupid. I came into this program believing that I was stupid. I called myself names. I called myself everything negative you can think of. I was useless, worthless, dumb, stupid. And so when I had a year clean, I started to stop negative self-talk. And I say started to stop because there's no way. I just stopped. Years it took me. Years and years and years. I could say today, I do not call myself names. I don't use negative self-talk. I don't say negative things to myself. But it's taken a lot of years of work. I got rid of the word stupid. And sometimes I call myself silly. Do you know how much power I take away from that stuff in me when I say, gee, Janice, that was silly, instead of that was stupid? I've learned how to be okay with some of the silly things that I do. Because if I was perfect, I wouldn't need this program. If I was perfect, I wouldn't need anybody. And I do have a goal for perfection. On October 5th, 2087, when I'll be 139 years old, and I'll take a cake for being clean 100 years. That's when I intend to achieve perfection. And until that day, I have to keep coming to this program and keep working on changing. In making this decision, third step, in making this decision to turn my will and my life over, one of the things that I was taught is you got to work the rest of the steps. And so I sat down and did a fourth step and listed all the things that I swore I would never tell another human being. I had some pretty powerful stuff, I thought at that time. Right now I'm saying it tongue-in-cheek because my powerful, I'm never going to tell anybody anybody's stuff is really silly. Some of the stuff was so silly, but for me at that time, it was really, really awful. And so I wrote it all down, and I still didn't know when I wrote it all down if I would tell anybody. My sponsor said I didn't have to commit to telling anybody. All I had to do right now is to write all this stuff down. I had to write it down so I can get it out and put it on paper. And I had to look at my assets. I had to look at my defects. I had to look at what the nature of my wrongs was, which wasn't pointed out to me until I sat with my sponsor and did a fifth step. And when I sat with the sponsor and I did this fifth step, I tested her. I told her a little thing. And she laughed. And then she told me one of her little things. And I laughed. And I really got to see that I was just like somebody else. I really got to see that what I had to not share with somebody just wasn't really, or to share with somebody, just wasn't that bad. So I got to share this with her. I got to talk with her. And I got to get rid of the stuff. I've done a number of fourth and fifth. I've gone through the steps, of course, a number of times. And each time I go through the steps, I get to see where I am today with each one of the steps. I get to see what's going on. That first fourth step was just to get rid of all the old stuff. And now I get to do inventories I say on a regular basis, like I do it, daily. I do them as I'm working through the steps. I do a 10th step, but I haven't got to there yet. So let's go to my 6th step, looking for defects of character. When I got to make a list, I had been in the program for a little while, And I have really had a lot of trouble with the words defects of character. And the reason I share this is just in case anybody else may be having trouble with it. I would never change the steps of Narcotics Anonymous. Hear that, because I believe I'm of service in this program. I've been of service since I had 9 months. Sometimes I have to change words within my head to make it make more sense for me. And this was one of the things I needed to change for me, talk with my sponsor, because I was so defective when I got here. And I was so filled with pain, and I didn't believe that I was a worthwhile human being, and I'm just now starting to get that I was a worthwhile human being, and now you tell me to sit down and look for all the defects in my character. That was disturbing. It was bugging me so much. So what I chose to do instead, and again, this wasn't on my own, I talked with my sponsor, and I just chose to make a list of negative behaviors. It's only semantics, it's just words, but for me it was something that I needed to have, all the behaviors that I was participating in that weren't the best for my recovery. So that's what I got to do, is make the list of negative behaviors. And then take a look at this list, and when I asked God to please remove these defects of character or these negative behaviors from me, as our literature says, it's really important. I still got to do the footwork. I don't get to just act out on the behavior and then go, oops, God didn't remove that for me yet. So I still have to do the footwork. And as I've done more and more 6th and 7th step, there's an expression we've used before, that the road gets narrower. And that was a hard one for me to get, because what I'm seeing for me is the road gets wider. Because in my head it was like, oh, there's so many more things I can do. Where the road gets narrower, there are so many more things that I can't do, act out on, do. There are things that I got away with before that all of a sudden I don't now. For instance, when I go shopping and I pick up something that I think I want to buy, and then after I'm walking around for a while I decide I don't really want it, I bring it back to the shelf I got it from. Because you see, nobody's job description says clean up after Janis. And sometimes when I first started doing that, I found myself being very self-righteous about it. Because I was doing it, so I was like, I just saw myself at a cash register, and the person in front of me would take the item that they didn't want and just put it down on the floor. And in my self-righteousness, I would pick up the item and I would say, excuse me, is this yours? You forgot it. Which is really rude and inappropriate. And I got that. One more thing for another 6th step, right? To list the negative behaviors, because I can't ask people I can't change other people's behaviors. I can only look at my own. When I have a cart and I bring it out to the car when I'm shopping and I load my groceries in the car, I now bring the cart back to the store or back to that little place that says shopping carts here. Because again, nobody's job is to clean up after me. And so those are the things I do. When I drop a piece of paper, I pick it up. I have a conscience today. And I listen to it, because I call it the voice of God for me. And I hear, Janis, you just dropped something. Janis, why don't you pick that up? And sometimes I'll go, no, there's just too many things. I'll pick that up, Janis. And I do it because I'm tired of hearing that. So that's some of the things that I've learned how to do. I made a list of the people that I had harmed when I made an 8th step. That one was somewhat of a challenge, because some of the people I had harmed me. And I really had to let go. I had to let go of that part of it and only look at my part. So when I made this list and I started making amends, there was a lot of things that were easy to make amends for and a lot of things that were tough. I started making financial amends when I had a year clean. And I owed a lot of money. I owed lots and lots and lots and lots of money. And I started making financial amends, $5 here, $10 here, $50 here. I was arrested when I had 10 months clean. For the wreckage of my past, I had 5 felonies, and the judge allowed me to make restitution on some of these. So I also had that beside the records of my past. And I started when I had 1 year clean, and when I had 2 weeks before my 12th NA birthday, I sent in the last payment on the last item that on the wreckage of my past. So it took me 11 years. And our literature talks about that too, that sometimes it's going to take a long time to pay this stuff off. For me, it was worth it. Bankruptcy wasn't worth it, because for me, that's a softer, easier way, and I spent my whole life doing the softer, easy way. I was running the streets. I did everything underhanded. I was a criminal, And I don't want to be that person anymore, so I want to pay back. For me, bankruptcy meant that other people would be charged interest because I wasn't paying back my debt to society. So for me, I had to pay it. This isn't a judgment about other people's stuff. This is the stuff that was for me that I needed to do in order for my growth. I started doing a 10th step when I had 88 days clean. I didn't know it was a 10th step then, but afterwards I realized it. I've got 6,746 days clean. And I know that because when I started this at 88 days clean, I've written every night since then. Somebody told me you only have to write 5 minutes a day and you can get rid of all the stuff. So that's what I started doing. I started writing 5 minutes a day. I stopped 5 minutes a day a few years after that and just wrote every day. Didn't miss a day. But I was finding that recently I started writing a lot more on, I don't feel like writing tonight, but I'm writing just so I could say I wrote. Which is okay because I wrote, but it wasn't getting, the purpose of my writing was not happening then. So on this last birthday, I committed to doing 5 minutes a day again. I needed to recommit to some basic stuff for me. The 10th step was important though. It is important because I'm able to get rid of the stuff, and I know immediately when I start writing who I need to make amends to. If that's needed, if I've been nasty or rude or anything like that. I improved my conscious contact with a power greater than myself. I want to say daily, but I got to tell you, it's almost minute to minute because I talk to God on a regular basis. That's what's cool about cell phones. People don't know if you're talking to yourself, you're talking to God, or you're talking on a cell phone. So it's really cool because I won't carry cell phones, and the only reason I bring it in here is so I'd have the clock. I won't carry them in a store, but I can just be talking away, and I'm fine with it. I talk to God on a regular basis for me. And please, if you do not have a God of your understanding, you belong in NA anyway. There's no rule here. We use the word God, but you know what? If you can find a power greater than yourself, find any kind of power. I know a number of people who are atheists in this program and have a lot of years clean. I don't want anybody to leave here because you're uncomfortable with the God thing. Find something that'll work for you and please stay, because this is like the most awesome program. We got the best thing going here. I always think that if people, even when people can get clean. You can get clean anywhere. You know, people go to church, people go to get clean. We don't have the only thing going. One of the things that I found, though, and that I truly believe, is that here in Narcotics Anonymous, if you're not in NA and you die clean, your recovery dies with you. But here in Narcotics Anonymous, when we die, every one of us has a piece of everybody else's recovery. And that's the gift that we have here in this program that you just ain't got nowhere else. We're fantastic with that. And a 12th step, getting to carry the message, getting to talk with people, getting to be of service in this program is one of the most important things in my life. Sometimes I don't want to do it. Sometimes I want to say, forget it, or another F one. And I know that I need to do it. I've been of service in this program since I've had 9 months clean. And I've had some type of service commitment, and to me it's really important for me to maintain my recovery here. I love this program. I wouldn't trade. I came into Narcotics Anonymous through another fellowship, and I think we have the best thing going. The one thing we have is we get to look at the disease of addiction. So I get to look at how this disease manifests itself in me once I stop using. And the literature, How and Why, talks a lot about that and a lot of the different steps. Page 7, 14, 23 and 36. Now it's on tape, and I think that's what it is. But each one of those pages talk about how the disease of addiction manifests itself once we stop using. Then we have to address all that other stuff. So I need to stop because my time is up here. I want to say that I always believe that if you go over your time, it's ego. So I'm always really careful about that. You're in for a hell of a ride here. Grab your ass, and they tell you in this program to grab your ass and to hold on tight. And I always will say this when I'm done speaking because this is something very important to me. I love you. And I truly mean that. Some people say, well, you can't love everybody. You can love everybody. I don't like you because I don't know you. It's like I don't have to invite you to my house because I don't know who you are. But the words I love you mean for me, if you need to talk, I will listen. And if you need to listen, I will talk. That's all it is. I love you. You call me, I'm there. So, you're in for a hell of a ride. You got to grab your ass and hold on tight. And if you have trouble grabbing your ass, please feel free to grab mine and I'll take you along with me.
All right.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please help us improve our ranking so others can find us by putting a review on Stitcher, iTunes, or your favorite podcast index. Nawpod is ad-free thanks to the folks supporting the show with $1 or more per month. If you enjoy listening, you can join them by going to nawpod.xyz and looking for the donate link. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.